In this episode, you'll hear some sensitive topics. So, with this trigger warning, if you have little ones around, please grab your headphones now.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a very, very vulnerable and private subject, but I also
Yeah.
believe it is really, really important to show to people what can be done and
Mm.
how much actually the family and the lineage and the ancestry has impact on our lives. And the more order we create within in relation to our family history, the freer we're able to make choices and overcome certain obstacles in our lives because we're the ones who are now at the edge of experience and kind of carrying the flame forward for everyone that has come before. So it's on us now to look at it, what our ancestors oftentimes didn't even have the possibility or capacity or the opportunity to look at back in the day.
Folks, this week's guest is my new friend, Celmuun, quantum guide and certified QHHT practitioner. From competing and winning martial arts competitions to experiencing a traumatic experience in a blink of an eye, how did Celmuun navigate her own healing journey? What led her to become a certified QHHT practitioner in addition to her multitude of spiritual gifts? You'll definitely want to tune in to hear Celmuun's story. Let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast, the show that empowers you to live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Benjamin Ye, and I created this podcast to give you perspectives on how to strengthen your mindset so that you can build optimal health, create aligned wealth, and connect with your higher self. It's all interconnected. Let's get to work. Hi, folks. Welcome back to episode 69 of the Boom Vision Podcast. I'm ecstatic to share today's interview with my new friend, Celmuun. I was introduced to Celmuun through our mutual friend, Tien Mu. During our first chat at a friend's get-together, something felt familiar, that we were friends in previous past lives. I couldn't be more excited to share Celmuun's story with you all today. As a brief background, Celmuun D is a quantum guide. She works with both the conscious mind and the subconscious mind to collaboratively build a sustainable bridge between the two to facilitate an empowering and freeing shift in your most natural, authentic, and creative version of yourself. Celmuun is also a certified quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, QHHT, and certified transformation coach. She combined these modalities with techniques from traditional Mongolian healing methods and ancient Taoist wisdom, rounding it up with family constellation, human design, and gene keys, and many more. Additionally, Celmuun is developing an art form called quantum dance, which incorporates quantum hypnosis, shamanic trance dance, and Taoist movement arts to tap into the joy and wisdom of the body to induce transformation and integration. She embodies this in her own creative expression as Atma Tao. Celmuun is originally from Mongolia, grew up in Germany and Austria, but now is based in Los Angeles, California. So without further ado, here's Celmuun. Celmuun, welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben.
Oh, I'm excited you are here and we're having this conversation, and I want to just dive right in. So, Celmuun, can you share your origin story? Where did it all start for you, and what led to what you are doing today?
Okay. So I am originally from Mongolia. So I was born over there, spent my early childhood over there until I was 6, 7 years old. So I've been able to kind of immerse myself in this beautiful ancient culture and tradition and spiritual background. And from there, I moved to Germany and Austria. So I had a very Western socialization, going to school and studying over there. And then I lived in the United States. So I have very interesting insights in terms of my upbringing and coming from the perspective of Asia, Europe, as well as the US. I think the most important part in terms of my becoming somebody who works with energy and does hypnosis and healing work is my early childhood with martial arts. I was practicing different kinds of Chinese martial arts actually in Mongolia and Europe as well as in the US, and slowly progressed more and more from like a very physical aspect of like being a child and jumping around like a little flea, doing acrobatics, to more and more internal energy work like qigong and tai chi and like internal arts, which eventually led me getting into the Taoist martial arts, where I was deeply immersed into the five different elements and learning how to harness the energy of the elements to create a universe within the universe. So tapping into that world really made me aware of how much of the spiritual world, the spiritual aspect of myself, can be tapped into and experienced from my physical self that is in the body with the mind and the emotions, and finding ways how to align all these aspects of myself to experience incredible realities and being able to tap into parts of existence that are not usually known and understood by mainstream society.
Moon, I'm curious, does martial arts start as a hobby for you, or was it influenced by your parents wanting you to learn martial arts, or how did that begin?
It was actually my mother, and I'm forever grateful for her to do that. She put me very, very early into wushu class back in Mongolia. And the kind of trajectory she set for me back then, without even knowing, was number one, incredible health and, command over my physical body and learning how that aspect works super early on, but also kind of setting the trajectory for my spiritual awakening. And yeah, I'm grateful that my mom did that early for me.
Wow. Was that like in elementary school or middle school?
Yeah, it was actually elementary school. I was being trained in kindergarten already for the Mongolian dancing national team. So I definitely had a knack for movement and starting the martial arts at the same time. Like both these different art forms really, really informed me.
Wow, so really in an early age. And then as you progressed and improved, did that move into competition or how did that evolve?
Exactly. Yeah, I when I was in Europe, I was able to find a new martial arts teacher who was incredible. She was very patient and very form oriented, and she understood that I had a knack for forms. And yeah, and slowly she introduced me getting into competitions and stuff. So I was doing German championships and ended up even doing European championship of the Wushu and Kung Fu academies, and traveled to Germany and did all kinds of fun and growth-inducing experiences in that way.
Wow. So, what is that world like in competition? Because my form of the competition for me back when I think of my younger self is playoff, CIF, and I played volleyball quite a lot in high school. But when it comes to martial arts, because you're competing with, sure, there's like different tiers of it, but like, what was that world like?
Well, the teachers of the different academies would come together and be judges, and there would be different kind of disciplines that you're being tested and scored on. And you would do a performance part of the different martial arts forms. You would do the competition, the fighting aspect of it, and many different things where you would compete against each other. And the one thing that I was most excited about, also just because I was really into dance and movement. I loved doing the forms. That was my main category. I excelled and absolutely loved.
And through those competitions that you participated in, like how was your experience? Do you enjoy these competitions? Were there ups and downs, or what was your journey like?
Yeah, I mean, I was usually very, very good in competition. So I would easily win, and I had a very strong perfectionist aspect to my personality. So that particular European Championship, I really put a lot of pressure on myself. I was practicing day and night, even during my dreams, every waking second, and I just wanted to be better than I could possibly be or imagined myself to be. And I was so excited doing this competition and showing off my ability and so on. And everybody else was as well. But that particular event really, really made a huge impact on my life because I was 17 years old and I traveled by myself. And I had a very overwhelming experience of completely freezing up during the forum.
Hmm.
And as I was preparing, I was standing there, I was getting into flow state. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I blacked out, couldn't remember a single thing. I don't even remember what my name was, pretty much. And
Wow.
the whole crowd went into wow, oh my God, and and everything you can imagine. And it was a devastating experience for me, actually. It was very challenging. This particular wound or trauma from my childhood is definitely coming up for me personally right now to be healed. So it's actually quite opportune to bring that up and process it like this. I definitely had a problem after that to to show up in front of crowds, even though I pretty much grew up on stage performing as a child until I was 17, and from there on I could barely, speak my name and tell people who I was.
Wow, okay. And do you recall just what you either felt or the thoughts that were going through your mind as you were completing that particular performance or even just the competition in general?
Yeah, I restarted again. So I froze up and they said start again. So I went back and finished the form. And I also ended up winning the competition, strangely, but I never got to really fully embrace that win.
Wait, so you restart the form and you actually win the competition, right?
Mhm.
But it felt like internally, it seems like it wasn't complete though for you because of that experience.
Exactly. It turned out to be a huge trauma. And in the moment, I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't have anyone around me to kind of help me process it. So
Mm.
I internalized that shock and that disappointment and the failure. And I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And pretty much all my life since then, even in my careers, I have started a lot of very, very fascinating projects. And as soon as I garnered attention, because the things that I was doing were very, very interesting to people, I would get asked to speak about it in public and join this convention and do a TEDx talk or, a Pioneers Festival, Women in Tech, and like different kind of things projects that I'd started in my career. And every time I would be moved into the public eye for some reason, I would panic and I would drop the project that I was doing and start something new and start afresh from the beginning and would take time to build it up. And yeah, so all my life I've been doing these cycles of like as soon as I needed to be seen and to be recognized for what I was doing, I had to run away. But this time around, the work that I'm doing now with quantum hypnosis and the Mongolian healing arts, I don't think I can run anymore. It is what I really, really want to do, and I can't see myself doing something else. So it's time for me to really face that trauma from the
Mm.
past.
Just want to highlight because it's fascinating because I think from people on the outside, observing your experience, even though you won that competition, in their eyes, they might see that as success since you did win a competition, but it feels like that how it reflected for you in that traumatic experience, it seems to have carried you for quite some time. Did you continue practicing martial arts after that competition, or did things just shift for you as your relationship with martial arts going forward?
I think the love for martial arts could not be taken away by that kind of failure. Like I definitely continued doing martial arts, but in a very more private kind of form. I wasn't performing on stage anymore. I wasn't competing anymore. I wasn't seen doing it. And even the martial arts itself became more and more internal. Yeah, so the martial arts itself didn't suffer per se, but my experience with myself has had changed because I was severely devastated with the idea that I could practice martial arts and practice my body to such a degree. And when it mattered, I couldn't trust that aspect of myself, that my body just
Mhm.
wouldn't respond to my mind and my prompts, and everything that I have poured into it would not amount to anything. Like it was very, very disappointing for a 17-year-old. I couldn't believe that that happened, you know?
Yeah. And so through from 17 till now, like what's transpired for you in your journey of that self-healing of that aspect?
Yeah, so pretty much most of my life, I did things more hidden, more in the shadows, more one-on-one, and try to stay away from being seen. I found ways to dodge it. Like, not everybody has to speak in public or do this kind of stuff. So for me, even just speaking in this podcast is a very, very big deal, but I can feel a big shift and a difference in me right now in comparison to what was before, because now that I'm so committed on my path, and now that I think it's important that I show up and share my story and share my experiences and all the wisdom that I have derived from it, it's time for me to step into the light and be seen. So I have really dedicated myself for that healing process. And yeah, I've done very, very interesting and powerful healings recently, and I can see that I'm reaping the benefits of it right now as we speak.
Mm. And is that something you're able to share, Moon, in that, in your journey of this self-healing? Because I mean, getting to know you, it feels like maybe the experience you've encountered when you were 17, part of it is in that present moment, but part of it might be also from the past. The energy might not necessarily be yours. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm curious, like, what has revealed itself in your journey so far in healing that aspect of yourself?
So there were definitely multiple layers to it, because the experience itself of having had such a shock with my nervous system definitely left a trauma in my body, which would put me into fight or flight mode every time a similar situation would come up. So I would do everything to avoid it.
Hmm.
So working with my nervous system definitely was a very, very big step. And I actually used quantum hypnosis with different practitioners to work on this particular issue, which means I was able to travel back in time and also see how my upbringing in my childhood with very high pressure, performance oriented parents would have made a big difference in how I was pushing myself at that time, and kind of releasing and peeling the drama onion, as I like to say. That aspect was a very, very big part. But after working with everything I could that I could do on my very personal experience, I thought there might be things that are connected to my ancestry and my lineage that might have been still unresolved and that was impacting me, because I have tapped into family constellations as a modality quite a bit myself, and I started using it in my own sessions with other
Hmm.
people, and I saw immense, unbelievable changes and progressions. So I looked up a therapist myself, actually, and I did a session with him, especially on this subject because it's been so big and it's so present for me right now and ready to be overcome. And that experience was absolutely mind-blowing. What came out was very, very surprising, actually.
Is that something you're able to share?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a very, very vulnerable and private subject, but I also
Yeah.
believe it is really, really important to show to people what can be done and
Mm.
how much actually the family and the lineage and the ancestry has impact on our lives. And the more order we create within in relation to our family history, the freer we're able to make choices and overcome certain obstacles in our lives because we're the ones who are now at the edge of experience and kind of carrying the flame forward for everyone that has come before. So it's on us now to look at it, what our ancestors oftentimes didn't even have the possibility or capacity or the opportunity to look at back in the day. So yeah, working with this family constellation therapist was very, very eye-opening because he said very quickly too, like I told him this and that, this is what's happening to me, and he immediately knew to ask about the father of my mother.
Mm.
And he wondered if there was anything in relating to the health, life, death, relating to the children, so the siblings of my mother. And lo and behold, my grandparents' first child, my eldest uncle from my mother's side, had died early on in his life. And even though we had a picture of him in the house, there were not many stories told about him. So there was an aspect of our family that wasn't talked openly about and which I didn't know much about. So he said actually that it happens that when the first child of a man dies, it sometimes, oftentimes, has the effect that he loses confidence.
Mm.
And I remember understanding that my grandfather was actually a very withdrawn and calm person, and I just thought it was his personality. But yes, indeed, something very, very big, very, very tragic, very, very difficult had happened in his life, and he hadn't been able to process it. And now, me as an adult, looking back and looking into my history, it was mind blowing to see and understand that this was still something very, very big in our family.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just feeling the energy right now as I'm listening to you, Moon. Is that when did you find out about this? Was it when you were going through the self-exploration that you discovered this, or you've known this from before, but you didn't connect the dots up until that family constellation session?
Yeah, I personally didn't know about it at all, and I had not no idea that this aspect was still open in the family and that it would affect me. But the session that I did a little over 2 weeks ago, actually, it brought it forward. And the way how family constellation works is it works with the morphogenic field of a system of belonging. So I am a belonging part of the system of my mother and father. So mom, dad, my siblings, we're a system of belonging. I'm not married, so this is my system of origin. And the grandparents, the mothers and fathers of my mom and dad, they are the secondary system of belonging. And if something happened in their life that hasn't been resolved, the ones that are youngest or that are like in the middle of life are the ones that overtake these kind of things and express it in their lives within their context of reality so it may be resolved. So it would look from a non-constellation perspective that it would be my issue of self-confidence or losing self-confidence in myself when my body wasn't able to perform in a state of shock. But relating it from a constellation perspective to that traumatic experience to my grandfather, I was able to undergo the therapy part of the constellation work and connect with my grandfather and my uncle, my young uncle who had passed away, in a way that I could express to them my honor and appreciation and loving understanding for the situation, and release that experience and leave it be in the past and resolve it with them and for them, and promising them that I take my life under control to honor them with everything that I do create, and everything that they had sacrificed and experienced, and the pain that they have felt was not in vain. I honor them for it, and I will make something out of it. So I got to speak that out and connect with them in that way. And I can feel a very, very big shift happening within myself, especially after the 14 days that you're not supposed to speak about after a session.
Mhm.
I can feel, hold on, like the immense pressure that I was feeling when I had to be seen and step into my confidence and step into my power. It's actually releasing, and I can feel myself again. And I can definitely imagine that in the future that this process is going to be a lot easier as I go.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm feeling very warm right now.
Mhm.
There's a feeling that some sort of energy, but what came to me as I'm listening to you, Moon, is that it almost feels like what might have been felt like a blaring white spotlight on stage and maybe some crowdedness is now there's air, there's space for you to freely move however you want to move on that stage. And the light isn't so blaring, but it's soft and it's gentle, and just the environment from within has started shifting. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but that's just kind of what I
You put
sense
it,
as I'm listening to you.
yeah, you put it in such beautiful words, because that's exactly how it feels. Your empathetic powers are incredible, Ben. Seriously, because this is a very, very good image description of what I was feeling and experiencing. And I just wanted to mention really like and highlight that aspect so much, that a lot of us, we carry so much from the previous generations. And there is this order that had happened, times when love wasn't able to fulfill itself and express itself and fully realize itself. And when that interruption of love happens, disharmony happens. And when we experience disharmony within ourselves, it comes from somewhere, which means it also can be resolved. And
Mm.
it is possible to get the chaos in order and find harmony within. And once the harmony within is installed, then the expression that we have, the power that we have, and the creativity that we have can be put out into the world in a harmonious way, in a flowing way, and we get to be as free and excited and loving and open and authentic as we can be, the more we pay attention to the harmony within and find ways. There's so many solutions, so many tools, so many things that are available for us now at our fingertips. And people who have gone before and solved the same problems, going to them and reaching out and finding a solution makes all of the difference in our lives.
Yeah. I love how you use the word harmony because that's really a major part of just having that inner peace and feeling that harmony within you. Right.
Mhm.
And there's so many different modalities out there. It doesn't necessarily mean there's just one specific modality that works for everyone. Everyone's has their own different journey. Everyone has their own different lessons to learn from. And you've mentioned family constellation as one way to help you unlock that movement and energy, right? That felt like it was unexpressed. The other thing you mentioned was quantum healing. And so, QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. I'm curious if we go towards that path. When was the first time you've encountered QHHT as a modality, and what sparked you in wanting to pursue that particular technique?
So I have listened to many different YouTube channels about spirituality and awakening processes as I'm undergoing my martial arts training and my Reiki training that came with it. And I remember listening to Dolores Cannon and the stories that she told about her experiences inducing people into hypnosis were incredibly fascinating to me. So I've known about her and her work for a while, and once I moved back to LA, I had the chance to join a group session of incredible QHHT practitioner called Heron, and he practices here in Los Angeles. And I was able to join, and it absolutely blew my mind.
Mm.
Group sessions are more, short kind of tapping into the experience and sampling it and seeing if you want to do like a full one-on-one session to dive into your inner worlds. And just that group session alone was enough. I immediately ran to him after the group session. I told him, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. And he's like,
Mm.
what it is that you're supposed to do. And I had these ideas of doing future timeline regressions, and it would be possible to do this and that. Like just being in that state of mind unlocked so much for me, because everything that I had learned about energy work and healing and moving energy and so on through all these other modalities seemed even more potent and powerful in collaboration and connection with the subconscious mind.
Mm. Okay, so
So,
before we dive further into that, I'm curious, and it's interesting because you mentioned the word Reiki too. I almost feel like, because when I reflect back on me and Ruby's journey, when we first were recipients of theta healing and Reiki healing, that's almost like our like first appetizer into energy work, right? And that's not to diminish at all the work that it is, because I think again, every modality has its own power and has its own purpose in helping people transform. I'm curious for QHHT, if I were to ask you sort of in layman's terms and basic words of how would you describe that to someone that has never experienced energy work?
I would start with a very common statement that children get to hear when they grow up, most children, is it's all in your head, it's not real.
Mm.
And that statement, I think, has impacted the way how people experience themselves and the reality that they experience to a very, very strong degree, that people neglect their internal experience and their internal worlds. And they don't realize the power of their dreams, the power of their meditation, the power of their subconscious mind, their internal world that has impact on everything that we do. Like, this is the main way how we experience the world. And if we're constantly focused in the outside world of the cause and effect and how this happens with that, and constantly try to push against reality that is fully manifest in a physical form, we neglect a very, very important aspect of ourselves that is internal. So using QHHT is tapping into the ability of the mind and the ability of the mind to visualize and create imaginations to be able to explore the internal world that is corresponding, of course, with their experience outside, and find healing and transformation and creating order and harmony to be able to experience the external world in a more harmonious way is probably the strongest and most powerful thing to do. And QHHT is a modality that uses different kind of brainwave patterns, like all hypnosis really, and tap into theta brainwave. That's the time that we usually, everybody experiences theta brainwave when they are about to fall asleep and right after waking up. So maybe for 1 or 2 minutes, we have these incredible time where we suddenly have ideas or suddenly realize things or suddenly find solutions to a problem that we were grinding on every day the whole time and couldn't find solutions for. And hypnosis can take this 1 or 2 minutes and expand it to 2 hours. And within these 2 hours, you can tap into your inner worlds and tap into your subconscious mind. So there are aspects of yourself that are unconscious and subconscious that you can then experience through your imagination that allow you to understand yourself and your mechanisms and why you are who you are and where you came from and what are your true desires and what you really want to do and how you want to go about it within that space. So it's a very, very magical kind of vortex into your beautiful inner worlds.
Hmm. The image that comes to me I listen to how you describe it, it's almost like when we think about how we operate our life, it's 5% consciousness and 95% subconscious, right? The image I got when I was listening to you talk about QHHT was it was like it's like we're living on the surface and above ground, right? Ground and above ground. And that's like metaphorically our consciousness. But if we take a detour and take a submarine, and you're like the guide and host of the submarine, and you're helping someone go down into the depths of the sea, their own sea, the vastness of that is so deep and so wide
Mm,
that some people just don't have the opportunity to explore unless they are open and willing to experience something like a QHHT.
exactly. It's exactly like that. I like to say that I am on the walkie-talkie with you as you're experience your dream space, and I
Right.
can guide you prompts and things that you can do, how to interact with it in a way that creates resolution and harmony within yourself as you're exploring the internal world. And I absolutely love the idea of submarine and the image of water because a lot of our subconscious mind is full of unreleased and unexpressed and unprocessed emotions. And emotions are water energy, you
Yeah.
know. And being able to dive into the past and looking into these unexpressed emotions and finding ways to resolve and release them and get the information that these emotions were have come to express to you in the first place and then releasing them, that is what we're here for on this
Yeah.
planet. We want to become wiser, we want to become higher frequency to be able to lead a happy and wise life and pass on a world and the earth in a way that the future generations would have even happier and even more interesting lives.
What's fascinating to me about this modality, and in full transparency to our audience too, I had the blessing of having a session with you, a QHHT session, and describing my personal experience of it. It was very interesting because it's like you're watching this movie play out, and parts of myself wanted to process with my logic mind or with my ego and control the situations, but then other parts of me is like, no, 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 no. Like, just sit back on the beanbag and just observe and don't react. Just whatever unfolds, unfolds. And it's a very different way of almost letting go of the muscle of needing to control a situation, but rather just see what unfolds as I'm taking the submarine with you, sort of on a speaker, guiding me through this
Mhm.
journey. And that's kind of how I would describe it, having personally experienced this. Yeah, like I'm curious for someone that has not had a session before, what would be an advice you would share with them if they're interested, they're curious? What typically for someone that's a newbie at this, what sort of advice can you share with them to
Mhm.
either prepare or what to expect?
So, in terms of what you said, it's a really interesting aspect of it for sure, because most people are geared to using their conscious mind for everything. The conscious mind has to make all the life-changing decisions. The conscious mind has to solve all the problems. The conscious mind has to process feelings. The conscious mind has to do this and that, and realize so much on our conscious mind that is very difficult for us to even grasp the idea that there are so much to ourselves and so many different consciousness aspects of ourselves that we can use to navigate our everyday life alone. We have the possibility of tapping into our heart space and move from there. We have the possibility of tapping into our sacral energy and move from there. We have so many faculties that we possess that we almost neglect in our society the way it is now and the way how the vast majority functions, that sometimes tapping into alternate states of mind could be confusing or challenging, especially if it's for a new person. And I
Mm.
can totally see a lot of people say that I don't know if my conscious mind is making all this stuff up or what is happening and where do all these stories come from and like how did I even make this up? It's it's definitely a relevant thing, but part of my job as a practitioner is to work with the conscious mind as well as the subconscious mind and create bridges between the two. And when people are used to doing meditation and stepping into the observer position and allowing themselves to experience their imagination and experience their mind chatter and so on, and they're more used to the fact that there is a subconscious mind or a higher self, as well as the conscious mind. And the more these two integrate with each other, the more natural it becomes and the more connection or ability you have to see things from a much greater perspective than just the conscious mind. The
Mm.
conscious mind is just meant to make everyday solutions and find solutions to everyday problems so we can navigate physical space. But our decisions in terms of our relationships, our life's work, our passions, and so on come from the subconscious mind. So it takes a little time to get used to this new space of experience and altered state and see, wait a minute, I'm not just the conscious mind. The subconscious mind and the conscious mind can connect with each other, speak with each other, negotiate with each other. And there are even more aspects that we can talk to in hypnosis. We can talk to the inner child. We can talk to the aspect of yourself that was 17 years old and had this immense trauma and needs release and relief and support. And that aspect of yourself needs some attention to be looked at and talked to as well. And there's aspects of yourself that are your imprints, holographic imprints from your parents. So even let's say if your parents aren't here anymore and have moved on, you can talk to that aspect of yourself that is still connected with your parents and interrelate and communicate with them through the hypnosis. So the hypnosis is almost like a vortex into the inner worlds of a person, as well as the collective consciousness per se. And what can happen in a session can take so many different forms. Apart from, everyday problems that we have as a human being, we can travel back in personal time, we can travel back in past lives, we can even, if we have manifested a certain kind of reality for ourselves, tap into a future timeline or tap into a parallel timeline. There's almost no rules when you're tapping into the subconscious mind. It's truly incredible.
Mm. It's just, it seems like it's a doorway in this like vortex, as you called it, to infinite possibilities of where you either want to heal or want to find an answer or something help you in your journey.
Yes, absolutely. That's correct. And the reason why this modality is called QHHT, it stands for Quantum Hypnosis Healing Technique. And that's exactly the quantum aspect of the hypnosis, what you were just explaining, because in quantum space time, there's everything and all possibilities, really. And
Mm.
we can tap into that quantum space as the observer, because the observer almost freezes the probability of something into actual physical reality through the observer itself. So when you tap into a hypnotic state, you're tapping into the quantum state, and you can choose and pick and see in the non-physical way through your imagination what kind of outcome certain kind of thing could have, or what kind of things had happened already in the past that is imprinted in the person in a holographic way. And then you can make some changes, and you will see you have made quantum jumps or quantum changes that will then over time start reflecting into physical reality. So really, truly, as we're navigating our lives over here, we are just imprinting as observers our inner worlds into our external worlds. And the more, again, harmony and order we create within ourselves and allow the life force energy of love to flow within ourselves unobstructed, the more happy, the more expanded, and the more exciting lives we get to live. It's a very beautiful opportunity and healing.
So I'm curious, Moon, are you able to share some examples of when someone is seeking a session with you, what are typically the situations or things that's on their mind that they're looking to resolve and why they're seeking this type of session with you?
Since it's such a wide potential and what is possible during a hypnosis session, it is very, very much unique to every single person to what can happen. And it's almost a collaboration between myself and my subconscious mind and the person and their subconscious mind. So, in terms of that, a QHHT practitioner needs to be able to navigate all kinds of different situations with many different tools that we have picked up over time, that I have picked up over time. But the main few ones that are coming to mind, I can definitely share with you. Most people come with childhood trauma or previous trauma or relationship breakup, or they get stuck in their job and their lives and they don't know what to do and they want to look for their purpose or step into the service for the world and do things that are more aligned with them and like very physical, everyday life, very practical kind of questions can be looked at and resolved, which is a very, very good tool to do that as well. But there are also people who are very curious about their past lives and they want to see how their past lives or the lives of their ancestors is affecting their lives right now, creating blockages or challenges that they need to figure out ways to look at in a different way and release it out of their lives. So that's another aspect. But there are also people who are waking up to the fact that they are not just physical beings and they are more spiritual beings and they want to tap into understanding what that means for themselves and their own soul and their soul's journey and what it means for them to wake up and navigating the waking up process to their spiritual self. So I can guide them through their spiritual awakening process and give them important tools and knowledge and understanding through holding space in the quantum space so they can then reach and download the information that they need from their higher self as well as their guides. So this way you also create a deep connection with the guides and the higher self that you then can carry on forward for your life and start using these new abilities. And yeah, I also work with artists who want to create this beautiful piece of art and they feel stuck in one of their processes and they want to tap into their flow state and get more inspiration on how the project itself wants to come into being through them. And I've seen beautiful, beautiful songs being written, scripts being put into context and perspective, movie scripts, poems being written. I have seen such wonderful work coming together. I have helped people tap into the books that they were reading and experience the world that they've created through writing themselves in a hypnosis session and navigating and talking to the characters and different kind of virtual reality producers and creators have worked with me to explore their worlds in a way that they then can put into VR, for example. But I also have worked with sports athletes who want to find new ways of better functioning on the field in the competition and how to enhance their performance and their abilities. So the range really is very, very far and wide, and the solutions come as you tap into the quantum field and you download this information that you need very uniquely for each person.
I'm curious, Moon, because I think knowing and experiencing a QHHT session, it is I mean, these sessions aren't like half an hour long. I mean, I think when I reflect back on our session, it was at least I feel like it was like between 3 to 4 hours in a sense that the first hour was really just talking about life, what questions I have, what questions I would like to have seeking answers for, right? It's almost like a discovery conversation. And then the actual hypnosis segment of it was at least 2 hours, I remembered. And my question to you, for someone that is unfamiliar or new to this modality, and frankly speaking, for any other energy healing modalities, what is something the person should think about if the person they're talking to, whether it's you, whether it's anyone else, considering having booking a session with them, like what are some considerations or things that they can think about in and identifying that, oh, yeah, I think this is the right person for me in this journey because it's a very, how should I say it? It's like an intimate session to dive into your subconscious that I think it's important to make sure that the person you're having that session with is someone that you can trust and have that compatibility with, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I personally would say that as you're booking a session, you spend some time reflecting on some questions that you want to ask the subconscious mind. So when you've chosen somebody or when you're just open to meeting somebody and working with somebody, be clear about the questions that you want to solve and get answers for to begin with. So that already sets the intention and creates certain kind of energy around the session that prepares you already for the session. And when you find somebody that you resonate with, that you feel like you can open up to, then you can get into talks. And it usually takes a couple of weeks until you're ready to do the session itself. So that's a good amount of time to become clear and also start focusing energy towards the session itself. And yeah, the first 1 or 2 hours we spent together just speaking about your life, about your childhood experiences, and about the biggest things that are currently on your chest right now. And also, me being a transformative coach, working with the conscious mind as well, a lot of the questions can already be solved and discussed through and resolved during the consultation phase. And then we start honing in into the questions, the things that are very, very intimate between you and your subconscious mind that then be discussed during the session itself. And the hypnosis itself takes about 2 hours, in which we spend the first hour getting into experiences and adventures and stories that we can navigate to release some of the conflicts that are there. And the second hour, I speak with the subconscious mind and find resolutions, and almost sometimes have to negotiate with the subconscious mind that the person is ready to resolve some of the stuff in the hypnosis session so they won't have to go through the painful experience of experiencing the problems again in the physical form. And yeah, and then afterwards, you get a 2 hour recording of the session that then the subconscious mind itself can then process and listen again and integrate. And the integration phase is really, really important. Most people think because they are semi-aware or they think very aware during the session that they don't have to look at the recording again or work with the material again, but it often vanishes like a dream. So it would be important to, after some time lapses and the experiences almost vanishes like a dream 2, 3 weeks ago, to listen back to the recording, and you find so many gems and so much input in these 2 hours that you can then practically apply and integrate into your normal everyday life.
That's a really great overview of what a session is like, but also how someone can navigate and know how to prepare for if it speaks to your heart. Like, I think what's that saying? When the students are ready, the teacher will show up, right? And in this case, reason why I feel like I was prompted to say that is just more there's so many different modalities out there. It's just a matter of finding one that resonates with your soul and heart. I think that's really important because typically when it does resonate, it'll help guide you to make sure that you're working with people that are serving your highest and best.
Exactly. I think it's also important to mention that the solutions and the modalities to the problems that you're facing now usually start floating into your reality, which
Mm,
means that when you go about your day, and you're like, oh, I want to actually look into that problem, oftentimes the right teacher, the right book, the right conversation, the right modality, the right tool, the right things start showing up. And when it does show up and you feel a resonance, which means there's an excitement, there's a curiosity, there's something that tingles inside the body, inside the mind, then it's worth looking at. It's worth to take a step into it and see if the door is something that you would like to walk through. And that pretty much counts on everything. So there are phases of my life where it was important for me to focus on martial arts and using the Taoist training to heal my mind, body, and soul connection. And now hypnosis is a very big aspect of it. And I start offering it to the world and sharing it with people with incredible results.
mm,
And adding family constellations to that because it did so much magic for me, and connecting the two is mind blowing to me. And I just keep going and wandering through life, interrelating with these incredible teachers and modalities that have done so much for me, and each came at the right time for the right topic that I'm facing now. So it's just important to also listen to the science and listen to the writing on the wall and listen to the song playing in the radio, the sentence that is popping up in the book. Those are all different kind of messages of the subconscious mind and your guides to say, hey, this way, check this out. This decision is always yours, and it's your free will to choose your thoughts, to choose your emotions and your actions. But there's definitely help out there, internally as well as externally.
yeah. So, Moon, I asked this question to all of my guests, which is if the DeLorean and time machine time traveling is real. And I see the irony in asking this question to you because I feel like you do this all the time in your QHHT sessions. But um, but I'm curious if you're able to step into a DeLorean and travel back in time, would it be your 17-year-old self that you would revisit, or a different age in your past that if you had opportunity to speak to that younger self, what moment is that for you, and what would you like to share with her?
Hmm. That's an interesting question, and I think I would answer differently at different days even.
Hmm.
uh,
May I suggest a what's coming to me?
Coming to you right now. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's something you said earlier that really impacted me, which is that at age 17, in that competition where your mind blanked out,
Mm,
and even though you won that competition, you traveled alone. And it felt like in that moment, I'm not sure if it was family member or coach, but it didn't feel like you had someone to share and process what just happened.
yeah.
If you just showed up and you met that younger self and you see eye to eye and you have an opportunity in the locker room or somewhere private, just you two, what would you share with the young Moon?
Mm. Funny that you asked this question so specifically because actually not too long ago I exactly did that during a hypnosis session.
Mm,
I was put in hypnosis and I was able to speak with that aspect of myself. What I saw was that no matter what, I'm not alone. And this lesson is one of the most important lessons of my life that I've chosen before I even came over here, and is going to give me immense growth in the future. That this is a very important and necessary step towards learning and understanding what truly my highest potential is, and that I should take it one step at a time, that I should learn to trust and believe in myself, and that no matter how often you fail, there's always opportunity to get up again and try again, and I should never ever lose hope for the future that I will be able to do that.
I felt that. You said that. It's no, thank you for sharing that. How did it feel for you in expressing that?
Yeah, it felt really good, and it calmed me down and made me understand that challenges are necessary for growth, and we're here to grow. Not everybody has the same challenges, but oftentimes people can relate. And one thing that somehow always stuck with me after I heard it for the first time that relates so much with this is a samurai falls 7 times and gets up an eighth.
Hmm.
Which is also a martial artist saying, So I think this is my time to get up my eighth time, and I can feel myself doing that. So also thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to share my story and also confront that age-long fear of myself.
Yeah, I feel like I had the blessing of sort of having a seat watching this unfold, and it's a blessing. It really is a blessing to witness this. So, Celmuun, where can our audience find you?
They can find me on my website. It's www.celmuun.com. I have just finished it, and I'm going to put a lot of blog posts and YouTube and Instagram stories and so on, where I will share more and very authentically and honestly my own stories and my experiences in the quantum space so people can get a more and deeper understanding of what goes on out there and what goes on with me.
And just so our listeners can understand, the services that you offer is one-on-one QHHT sessions. It sounds like you also do group as well, right? Is it only one-on-one, or can you tell me a little bit more of the different services that you offer?
Yeah, so I do like very comprehensive assessment readings where I use the many modalities that I have learned and trained in over the years to kind of get an understanding of where the person is and what they need to do on a very conscious level. And also do transformative coaching, which means helping people through transformation and change processes with a very spiritual aspect to it. And the hypnosis sessions happen definitely one-on-one as well as group sessions, but group sessions are more to get an understanding or people who are already used to travel the quantum space to take it as kind of a launch pad and me holding space for them. But true deep, deep sessions of deep, deep transformations happen in the 4 hours of the one-on-one sessions. And furthermore, actually, is I am developing this art called quantum dance, where I connect the dancing and the Taoist martial art and Mongolian trance dance with the hypnosis itself, where people can work with the wisdom of the body to release trauma and release stuck energies through movement, but in an altered state of mind that is guided and supported and held in a very loving, beautiful container.
Got it. And all of your information I'll definitely include in the show notes, so it'll be easy for people to be able to find you. And I just want to say, someone that I so very much appreciate you sharing so authentically and vulnerable way, which the way I interpret it speaks volumes to the strength that you have in the journey you are creating. I can't express this enough. Like I so very much appreciate you sharing this because I'm in awe of how much you're going to accomplish and continue to accomplish. And it's just feels like you're just getting started. And I just want to express my gratitude in you coming today and sharing your story and your gifts.
Thank you so much for seeing and acknowledging that, and also holding space for this to happen. And also, thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing and sharing all these incredible stories on your podcast and sharing yourself in this beautiful, authentic way. And it's incredible to be able to connect with you this way and being part of your creations. And it was a true pleasure to take you also into the quantum space and journey in your inner worlds together. It's a blessing to have you in my life. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And so the last question I have for you
Mhm.
is there a question that you feel I did not ask today that should be expressed, or whatever it is or message you have on that's in the top of your mind or that wants to come through, what would that be?
The main message I have to people in the world and to your viewers and everyone who comes across this recording is I want to tell you that life isn't always easy and there are many, many challenges and many, many things that we need to overcome. But beyond that, and especially through that, through the overcoming, through the healing, through the untangling and creating harmony within the self, there's so much vastness, so much beauty, so much talent and joy and happiness and excitement and curiosity and potential of being and experiencing than we can imagine at this point in time. And the more you discover and uncover, the more you tap into your inner power and understand how much freedom there is to unlock, the more interesting it gets. It just never ever stops. And this is not everything there is, and don't let them tell you otherwise. There is so much more to our experience and existence. And the more we tap into our multidimensional selves, our realities will warp and expand and fully open up into complete equilibrium. It is so incredible and such a wonderful journey. And please feel encouraged to continue going and believe in yourself and trust yourself because there's so much beauty to come and so much beauty to discover in the now. So I'm happy to be with you on this planet, on this journey, and knowing that you're fighting on and you're doing your best, and I'm doing the same. So let's all do this together. We're on the same boat.
I totally just felt the warmth of that. So thank you for sharing that message. Thank you so much for joining us today, Moon. I really appreciate you.
Same to you, Jen.
Wow, I am grateful to have Celmuun join our show today. I appreciate the nuggets of wisdom and stories that she shared. There's a quote I feel best highlights today's interview. Whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. This quote was by Earl Nightingale. There's an update I also want to share since recording this interview a few weeks back, and that is that Celmuun will be facilitating a quantum dance ceremony on Saturday, March 9th in Venice, California. Come join Celmuun for her new moon quantum dance ceremony, where she will guide you into a hypnotic trance state to tap into your highest potential self and explore the embodiment of the new version you. This is a fully immersive and sensory experience container with high frequency ambient music, aromatherapy, and guided hypnosis. This is a one-day event that will be held on Saturday, March 9th, 2024. So for more details, please visit her website at www.celmuun.com. That's spelled CELMUUN.com. If you feel moved by Celmuun's story and resonate with her energy, please feel free to connect with her or share her story with someone you feel can benefit from hearing her story. I also invite you to hit that subscribe button to this Boom Vision podcast if you are ready to thrive together mentally, physically, and spiritually. Until next time, folks, be kind to yourself, be in delight, be you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Boom Vision podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me and this podcast, head over to benjaminyeh.com. That's spelled BenjaminYeh.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.